Hey, Brett here. I'm working on a new routine related to neck stuff. So, this is a catalog of things you might try that might help your neck. I'm going to break it into three categories: static, dynamic, and then deep flexibility. So let's go ahead and go through these. I'm going to go through these quickly. Some of this is not things are not things I normally cover, but I'll give you a quick overview, and then I'll be going into them deeper over the beginning of the year here. So under static, there's really a couple things you can do, and it's around adding strength. So one thing is if you have neck damage, and this is true of any joint. A lot of times, if you have damage in the joint, what you want to do is you want to try to get strength around the damage so that your muscles can support you. I've got back injuries from falling off a train bridge and whiplash in my neck, and I'm sure the damage is still there, but I'd never experienced a problem because I've been working on strength and flexibility and balance. So that's what this is about. So one thing you can do is simply push in one, two. You might do something like three, four, and you want to hold this for longer. I'm demonstrating the idea. So these are pressing in four directions, and I would do one more. Five. That's for working on the second bow in Tai Chi. So that's one thing you can do. Hold for 30 seconds, hold for 30 seconds, hold for 30 seconds, hold for 30 seconds, hold for 30 seconds. That's going to build strength all around the neck, and so that alone might help. Now we'll get to flexibility at the very end. Okay, so the next thing you might do is a supported headstand. So, for example, you could take and use two chairs against the wall and then some pillows on the chairs. I just happen to have a table for this. Now, before I go any further, if you have neck problems, you might not want to do any inversions at all. And when I say inversion, head below the heart. So you need to work with a doctor. I'm not a doctor. I'm a software person who does this stuff on the side. So be careful with your neck. And if you have acute pain, if you can point to a spot and say that's where the pain is, back off. But if it's sort of an area or pressure pain, it might be okay. I'm sorry, I digress. But you are responsible for your own results. But the idea here is you probably want to get someone to support you, though, given that I've got this with some arm support, I could do a dolphin. So here's a supported dolphin. And right there, that's an amazing stretch. I might actually do this. In fact, I think I might try that now that I have just done this. But now afterwards, I might kick up. Oops, I didn't need to kick up that hard. And then I'm going to go ahead and use the wall and then let my head relax down. I lean to the side there. Let me straighten up a little bit. Okay, so anyway, I'm going to come down here. Okay, whew, bet you my face is red. Now, do I have one more thing here? Okay, so anyway, those are some static things you can do. Now, for dynamic, I cover these things a lot, but something that's just a generally good practice, and it will tend to loosen you up and also stimulate your lymphatic system and also help you balance your sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system. So I'm a big fan of this. I do this a lot, is shaking. So I'm going to have my feet hip width apart, knees bent, and I'm just going to bounce in place. That's all it takes. Now, as you're doing this, you want to breathe 5 breaths a minute. So in for a count of 6 and out. And so actually on the exhale, you might go, this alone is a good activity, and it might actually this will reduce stress. This, if you do this on a daily basis and you measure your A1C at the beginning and you go and measure it 3 months later, I'll bet you it has dropped a bit. So this is good physiologically, neurologically, and et cetera, et cetera. It's also good in your joints, just moving your joints around. So that's a really good one. I would recommend that if you can support it. Now, another thing you might try, since I don't directly work on the neck, I work around the neck, generally speaking. So this strength stuff, that's not something I normally do, but I certainly would do it. But I don't stretch the neck. But anything I do that is related or close to the neck, I'm mentioning now. So one of the things you might do is I'm looking straight ahead and simply turning to loosen your shoulders, because a lot of times tightness in the shoulders reflects both upwards and downwards. And so loosening your shoulders is really good. Now, this is only part of a more dynamic thing where you turn your waist in one direction and your shoulders in the other as you keep your head, but don't move your head. You're loosening the whole point of this one. So head forward and then twist. Okay, now another just example of Qigong you might try is, let's see, what have I got here? I haven't got this memorized yet. Oh, yeah. Did that. Oh, yeah. Okay, so we do this thing called sweeping leg. And in sweeping leg, the idea is you grab somebody and then the bottom foot sweeps and you throw them. Now, a different version of that gives you a nice twist in the neck. And anytime you can do a dynamic motion and involve the neck, it's going to help. So to get into this, I sort of step my left foot behind and I push my hands in the same direction. So I'm pushing my hands in the same direction as my rear foot. And then I look. And then 1, 2, and I'm twisting my head and my shoulders. So I'm getting a lot of good relaxation, specifically between my shoulder blades right there. So it's a really good one. And again, a lot of times, really tight shoulders will translate into neck issues. Now, if you have physical neck damage, then you're probably going to need some strengthening. All right, continuing. Let's see, what else have I got? Yep. Okay. Well, another good one is simply walking in a circle. So, in fact, I'm going to bring back this for a second. I'm going to use a bigger circle, though it's still going to be tight in this room. But oops, the idea is I'm going to walk in a circle around this thing. But if you just do this, it's not going to do anything. The thing you need to worry about is I want to turn my waist. So I'm going to turn, 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 turn. I'm looking over my shoulder and then I'm walking around. You don't have to hold your hands. This is fine. But I'm keeping my body in a twist as I look over my shoulder and I'm walking in a circle. Having your spine in a twist with just a slight step of the feet is going to slowly over time loosen everything in your neck. And then I'm going to turn it. This is asymmetrical. You need to go in both directions. So again, I'm turning at the hips, waist, shoulders, neck. And I've been doing this now for a number of years, so I can really twist quite a bit around. That's way too far. If I'm really doing this for practice, it's going to look something more like this. But the idea is I'm twisting and looking over, and that's really just quite good. So those are all some dynamic motions. One last thing you can do, which is of course pretty good, simply instead of pressing, you can look up, look down, and actually lead with your eyes. You can look side to side, and you can look all around. Now, these are all gentle movements. Any of these could help a little bit. None of them are going to be miracle workers, but they're going to probably help you stabilize and then slowly over time improve slowly. So if you make this a practice as opposed to I'm going to fix something and I'm done, if you've injured yourself, it's likely that you have to maintain it. That's just the reality. That is what is. And so stick with it. Find something that is you can do 5-10 minutes a day, And you wouldn't do all of these at the time, but if you have a mix of things, you can mix it up. I'm going to turn this into a routine. But anyway, let's continue because that's the dynamic and the static, but there's still a whole bunch of stretching that you can do. So the very first thing we'll talk about is a forward fold or ragdoll. So feet parallel, knees bent. I'm going to bend, bend, bend. Now, since I'm talking about the neck here, there is a hamstring stretch here, but for the purpose of this pose, I might just put my forearms on my knees and then allow my head to just hang. So I'm allowing for lots of extension. That allows for synovial fluid to get in between the discs. It might relieve tension, but this is an inverted pose, so proceed with caution. But this kind of supported forward fold, I'm not going to get much of my hamstrings, but I'm getting a great stretch from about throughout the entire thoracic spine all the way up. So that's an example of something that you might find, but be really careful about that, especially if you have a neck injury. Inversions are great if you can do them, but they're dangerous if you can't. Right now, the next one is one of my favorite poses. It uses a wall. I'll show you a variety without a wall. If you have neck issues, you might need to start with this. But version one, let me take my glasses off. I've got these bricks on either side of my shoulders. I'm going to bring my arms up. I'm going to allow my head to fall, but that's not the part that makes it work. Hands together, thumbs back between your neck, and then let your head fall. Now, this doesn't do much for me, but I am getting a bit of a stretch. You can go higher, but the problem with blocks is two problems. One, you might hurt your ulnar nerve, so you might just really get hit your funny bone, basically. Another thing is this works, but getting it balanced is difficult. I mean, I've got a good stretch there, but this does not feel at all stable. And if you're going to hold it for 5 minutes, you can't be screwing around with stability. But that's an option. Another option, and I don't have it available in the video here, is you go into a doorway. So imagine this is a doorway. I can do something like this at the top of the door and then fall into the doorway. Another option, same idea. And actually, right now, I've got my head touching the wall, but I'm getting a really nice stretch in my shoulder blades right about here. So these are all ways you might stretch your shoulders. The final version of this pose is on the wall. Now, before I do this pose, if you work up to the pose, once you go beyond 3 minutes, you start to possibly hurt yourself if you start to slide. So sliding on the wall is a bad idea. I'm going to lick my hands. Now I just brushed my teeth. Today it was charcoal flavored, so I prefer mint, but by having a little bit of stickiness on my hands, I get them a little bit wet and then I rub them. It makes my hands more sticky. I'm going to put my head all against the wall. I know that's disgusting, but you know what? If you do this pose for 5 minutes, once you do this pose for 5 minutes, and you will really appreciate not having slippy hands. I'm going to go ahead and do this pose, and then I'll fast forward. Alexa, play Spotify. Now, on this pose, you might be able to drop your head. If you can't, that's fine. You'll still get a great stretch. Okay, that's enough for now. That's about 2.5 minutes, I think. I didn't time it. But I don't want to go too much into this. Ooh, still really good. All right, now, there are several more poses for the neck. The next one, you're on the floor. This is asymmetrical, so we'll do it twice. Right hand in front of left, right arm in front of left, right hand goes to the left hand goes to the right. Hopefully your elbows cross a little bit, and then chin down. Now, notice this isn't directly on the neck, but once you work on this pose for a while and you get used to it, you're actually helping strengthen your neck and stretch it. So this is a really good pose for your neck, I think. It doesn't work directly on the neck. Again, I don't do anything directly on the neck except for those few hold the neck, hold the head while pressing into the hand thing. The neck comes along for the ride in a lot of these poses. So that was the right in front of the left, left in front of the right. This is pulling my shoulders apart and it's pulling them apart at 45 degrees, or not 45 degrees, but at an angle. So you're getting some diagonal stretching and some pulling apart. Whereas in the last pose, my shoulders were more coming together, if anything. And also the last pose was up and down, and this is side to side in terms of how it hits the body. Okay, I'm not doing this pose at the moment, but just go into it to demonstrate. Now, another one. And if you look on my site, this is the shoulders series. I'm going to go ahead and grab a prop here. Now, for this next one, I just find you can do this with your hands on the floor. I get a much better stretch between my shoulders if my hands are elevated. But your hands can be as high or as low as you need them to be to make this pose work. Idea, though, is my hands, I'm about in a shallow or a narrow dog, and my feet are wide, and then I fall into my shoulders. And this gives me a hamstring stretch, but it also hits between my shoulder blades. So this is going to hopefully collapse and soften my trapezius muscles, which certainly give me neck issues. If you can let your head just drag down here, just let it hang, that's great. If not, you can hold it up. I'm going to show you this from a different angle. I'll show you from two more angles. So straight on, this is, you're going to see the wide feet here, and then I'm dropping into my shoulders. It's perfectly reasonable to bend your knees to get a better emphasis between the shoulders and then leave your knees bent. Or sometimes you can find you can even make the pose even stronger by lowering your knees, getting sort of locked in and extending your knees again. All right. And then the final angle. Hello. So that's a really good one. If you do that pose along with the previous two, that's really going to loosen up your chest, your shoulders, and it's going to pull your shoulders this way, this way, this way, and this way. So it's going to get your entire shoulder, your shoulders just all loosened up. Let's see. The last one, let's see. I forgot to grab a strap. Where? There's a strap. I have more than one. This is not my favorite strap, but it'll do. Okay, so this last one, you're going to, this is more shoulders, but this can still help with tightness in the shoulders. So it doesn't matter how you're sitting. The sitting is just because you're not standing. There. You make a loop here. I'm going to take this, slide it down my back. I'm going to hook my left arm. Then I'm going to attempt to pull my left arm over and up. Haven't done this one for a while. And then I'm going to hold this as so. The important thing is, as much as possible, which is, I'm not sure how possible, the shoulder on the elbow on the top is pointing up and the one on the bottom is down. And eventually over time, you get closer and closer, like my fingers are just now touching. This is asymmetrical, so there's one side and then another. So this is only going to help your neck in as much as your shoulders are causing neck issues. But if you get strength and flexibility built up around your neck by doing some of these things, it will help mitigate the issues you're having. It might help mitigate issues you're having with your neck. But again, be careful. Watch out for stabby pain and so on. All right, so that's me verbalizing my notes here. Now I'm actually going to stretch a little bit before going to bed. But before I do that, I'm going to drink of water. Yeah, that's all. Just this one pillow for now. Well, I might as well get this one as well. And this one. And this one. All right, that'll be sufficient. That one for later, maybe. All right, I'm going to start with opening up my groin a little bit, feet together. I've got a fairly wide separation from my heels to my groin. 1, 2, 3, 4 fists. That's fine. I can go even further. I can lean into this and just allow myself to droop forward. Now, if I were thinking ahead, I wouldn't have thrown the blocks over there because sometimes I'll use a block on my forehead to help alleviate lower back issues. I'm not going to do that today because the blocks are over there and I'm here. Actually, there's a serious point there. This is a good pose. This is not a huge, deep pose. This is a big pose with respect to your groin and such. But if I don't have the blocks, it's not that big of a deal. If I'm doing other more strenuous poses like side splits, I would get up and get the blocks. In fact, I will get up and get the blocks if I do side splits. Okay, if I want to accelerate the initial lower back, getting my back lower, I'm going to just simply extend my hands. I only put my hands together to try to keep them symmetrical, and then that leverage will naturally lower things. And now I don't need the block because I can use my fist. Another trick here is looking ahead, and that helps with not straining your back quite as much. Almost. There we go. I'm not sure how long that was, but it's fine. Okay, I'm gonna do the reverse of that. Shoulders back, chest up to the sky. There we go. Okay, so now that I'm here, let's see how that heel does. Actually, I said I'm gonna. Now this isn't side splits. This is pancake, but it's still a big pose. Not very wide to start with, but there we go. Okay, so I'll be working on this for a bit. That's pretty good. And I'll do the same thing here. Taking as much of the pressure off my heel as I can. I think that's sufficient. Oh, that's okay. Oh, man. Aye, aye, aye. Okay. Probably stood up a little too quickly there. Nothing. I'm shaking my leg. That'll wake him up. Good night.